On this edition of Motorcycle Experience, we fire up our third full day of riding in Las Vegas, Nevada, and strike gold in the El Dorado Canyon. Then, during this week's Red Adventure, expert off-road competitor Lawrence Hacking will demonstrate the proper way to ride your adventure bike standing up. Then, former road racer and sport bike tire guru Sandy Noche of Pro 6 Cycle will stop by to look at your track day riding gear. Plus, motorcycle journalist Colin Fraser will roll up with some advice on shopping for a used bike while we look back at the 2006 BMW P1200R. All this and more on Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we'll kick off our show by sampling BMW's Go Anywhere, Do Anything Swiss Army knife of motorcycles, the R1200 GS. When it comes to adventure riding, over the past 3 decades, BMW Motorrad has continuously set the bar in the adventure riding category. Going back as far as 1980 when they launched their first GS, which by the way stands for Gerlandstrasse, or Terrain Street. The air-cooled 800cc R80 was basically a big dirt bike repurposed for the street. Fast forward some 30-odd years to behold this flat twin-powered R1200 GS. The same Terrain Street concept is here, but this is a dramatically different machine. At the heart of this puppy is BMW's newest fuel-injected 4-stroke Boxer power plant, mated to a single-disc dry clutch and 6-speed gearbox. In the suspension department up front, the R1200 uses BMW's adjustable single-spring telelever fork, while out back, the bike's die-cast aluminum single-sided swing arm sports BMW's multi-adjustable paralever system and shaft final drive. Heated grips, center stand, and ABS are all standard. But you can also order up trick features like an automatic stability control system, tire pressure control, onboard computer, and electronic suspension adjustments are all there for the taking. So how does all that work out in the real world? Well, here now is this week's guest road tester, Jeff Kay. So I know that you've ridden other adventure bikes before, and you've had some experience around the concept of adventure touring. This is clearly one of the grandfathers of of adventure touring. What did you think?
Well, you know what? I mean, I own a V-Strom 650, as you know, which is a light, nimble, Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. But this is the big dog. This is sort of the final word in adventure touring, and I guess it's been one of the most successful motorcycles in the world for the last 30 years, and the 1150 before that. It's an extraordinary bike. It's not a light bike, it's a heavy bike.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 500 pounds. But the center of gravity with this flat twin motor, that massive engine is quite low, and the seat is quite low.
Yeah.
It feels like you've got a very low center of gravity, which makes it super, super nimble. More nimble, in fact, in my view, than the 650 V-Strom, which is a pretty nimble bike for getting around the city.
That's quite a testament, yeah.
The other thing I would say is the responsiveness of the throttle is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Fly-by-wire, so there's no cables there, so
Yeah.
there's no slack there, and the different modes
Yeah.
are sort of in ascending order. From rain, which is quite soft and kind of subdued, to I think dynamic is the
sport mode. Yeah.
And boy, you've got to be paying attention because it is absolutely razor sharp. So to the point where you kind of think about a throttle input and it's happened almost before you're ready for it. So you kind of have to be careful with it that way.
I agree with you on all levels with this motorcycle, except for one thing I would add to that is it fits. It's such a comfortable bike, like
Yeah.
where your hands sit,
Yeah.
your feet
Yeah.
sits, the width of the saddle,
Yeah,
the
very
comfort of the saddle.
Yeah.
It's like, this is truly an all-day motorcycle.
Yeah, big widespread handlebars,
Mm-hmm.
which first you think that's pretty big for the city, but it gives you that extra leverage for the maneuverability.
Yeah.
The other thing is the turning radius, like lock to lock, is actually quite
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah.
Which for a reasonably big bike, you can move the thing around in a very small space. So that's great if you're out in the woods, if you're in a gully somewhere. But boy, it's great when you're in the city too.
Yeah, with this new generation engine, it just spins up and goes.
Yeah.
But it also has great stopping power.
Well, you know what? It's one finger stopping, and it's a linked ABS system. So you can actually, your inputs can be here or at the foot pedal.
Yeah.
And if you're on gravel as we were today, if you want to just be careful on the gravel, you stay off the front brake. You can do it all with the back brake too. So I mean, you got to hand it to the guys. They've refined this bike, but it's almost like what they say about the gold wing in the sort of luxury cruising market. It's perfect. There's nothing more to do to it. And this kind of owns the field in its own particular way.
So you said right at the beginning when we started to chat about the bike, you were amazed at just how nimble it was, how much torque it had, and how you would recommend that it be used as a commuter and something to sort of zip through the city. And yet the iconic vision of this bike is some guy riding to Alaska and back, right?
Well, which goes to show you that you can ride to Alaska and then use it as a commuter when you get there.
Anything disappoint you, Jeff? Because I think we've done about 5 minutes of just raving.
And you know what? I was thinking about this for the last couple of days, and I'm thinking, what do I not like about this bike? And I do notice that at highway speeds, these things wiggle a little bit. That's about that's the
You're trying now.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm looking for stuff.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Okay. Great job. Nice work.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Hang in there, we've got plenty more experience still ahead. Next, expert off-road racer Lawrence Hacking teaches us how to get off our duffs, while Norm Wells and I kick off our final day of riding down in Las Vegas, Nevada. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you by Honda Canada, BMW Motorrad, and Olympia Motorsports. Closed captioning of Motorcycle Experience is brought to you by the TELUS Ride for Dad. Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for this week's Red Adventure. Today, Lawrence Hacking wants to talk about standing up and getting out of the saddle when you're off the beaten path. But before we do that, let's check in with this week's Ultimate Ride. Okay, so as you know, each year Norm Wells of BMW Motorrad and myself have been packing up our motorcycles and setting off to explore a variety of destinations all across North America. This year, winter's early arrival prompted us to head south to Nevada, where we laid down our credit cards and rented a couple of motorcycles from the Eagle Rider folks in Las Vegas. Over the next 2.5 days, we explored the wonderfully scenic and sometimes very twisty roads that are within an easy ride of the entertainment hotspot. As we started out on our last full day of riding, we couldn't help but note that although this trip had thus far delivered on the Great Road's natural scenery scale, other than the Hoover Dam, we had yet to come across any really interesting examples of what could be described as local history. Well, all that was about to change as we rode south out of Vegas on Highway 95. Well, Norm, here we are. It's 9:30 in the morning, day 4 of our Viva Las Vegas Ultimate Ride, and we're about an hour due south of Las Vegas, and we have made an amazing discovery, as I imagine they made an amazing discovery here back in 1861.
Exactly, yeah. It's our usual departure out of Vegas, 215 towards Boulder, third time this week.
Yeah.
But this time we cut south on 95 and came down to 165 towards Nelson. And that was something that we just kind of threw out last night and said, hey, you know what, this road looks like it goes right to the Colorado River. Let's take it and see what it offers us.
Yeah. Well, at first it wasn't offering much. It was another one of those dead straight roads through the desert, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It was cold. But then all of a sudden, when we turned towards Nelson, the road just started to, you're heading into a canyon, the El Dorado Canyon, and then the scenery opened up and the road started to twist. It was just a great ride in here.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we found this little jewel called El Dorado Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting spot. A couple of pickers and hoarders, a father and two sons actually, and they've had it for 21 years and just been collecting stuff, and you can see what's around us here. If you go inside, it's even more amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an amazing, I feel like we're on a Hollywood set for an old, mining town from the 1860s, but not only that, it's just like hoarders, pickers, antique cars, you name it, it's all here, and it's just bring the camera and spend an hour just to take photographs. It's awesome.
And it's not advertised anywhere. They don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. So I would say it's an absolute destination point. You can spend a couple hours here. They have an actual mine tour. There's a gold mine, or a previous gold mine that's up there, 600-foot shaft down, 3 miles of tunnels to tour through. So for 10 or 20 bucks, it's definitely worth it. And I'd say it's a must-do on your Nevada or Vegas area trip.
Absolutely. So what have you got planned out for the rest of the afternoon?
Well, it is a one-way in, so we're going to go back out the way we came and head down 95 towards Searchlight, and then from Searchlight we'll head southwest a little bit into California, and then come back up to Jean and maybe have lunch in Jean and see what those roads have to offer us.
Well, if it's anything like this, it's another ultimate ride, man. Viva Las Vegas.
All right.
Be sure to tune back in next week and continue to follow along in our Ultimate Ride Diary, as we'll be in Good Springs, Nevada, checking out another ghost town. As for now, let's catch up with expert off-road competitor, Lawrence Hacking. So Lawrence, on this week's Red Adventure, you want to talk about, or continue our discussion about standing up on your motorcycle, your adventure bike, because last week we were talking about how it's important to do that when you get on hard-packed gravel roads. And I said, well, let's come back and talk about it next week, about just exactly how do you do it. So you're sitting down. Can you stand up, please?
Sure, yeah. It's pretty basic stuff. You go from sitting down, where you have 5 key points where your body is addressing the motorcycle, to then 4. And then you have options of squeezing in the bike with your knees to basically control it side to side. Mm-hmm. My center of gravity of my body is essentially right in here somewhere. What I try and do is then position this part of my body over the center of the steering head.
Right.
And what that does is it allows you to make tiny little precise movements to control the bike. Mm-hmm. If you can imagine having a car battery on the back of the motorcycle,
or your luggage
or something like that, that turns the bike into the back of the bike into a great big pendulum. So once it starts getting out of line of the front wheel, it tends to want to continue to do that, and you can get into trouble in that case. So you want to minimize my 160 pounds of ballast by moving that weight forward, down low if you want to, and then you can move your head up and look forward, and it's the best idea to look as far forward as possible to then deal with what's coming at you in a safer manner.
Right. So immediately by standing up, you can see you've lowered your center of gravity to as low as possible. You put all your weight down low, which is where you want the bike for stability.
Right. Yeah.
And now your body has become essentially a shock absorber. Your elbows and your knees are taking the shock.
That's right.
And you've moved the weight and the mass again to the center of the motorcycle, which is what we all want for our stability. So we've got that handled. Show me how not to stand up so that this is great for fatigue. You're not going to get as tired, but show me the wrong way to do this.
Well, you can tell a newbie from a long way away. Basically, if you're sitting like this trying to stand up, that's not working. You kind of want to bend your back a little bit. And what you want to have is your arms in an attack position, we call it, with your elbows up, and the handlebar in the bikes. The bike suspension will work nicely underneath you. This bike's a great example of really good ergonomics, because I can stand, for me, 5'10" or whatever it is, I can stand here with my back straight, so it's not kinked and not fatiguing my back muscles, and ride along all day long.
Right.
And then if you come to some bumps, it's very easy to squat down a little bit. If you come over a rise or something like that, and you say can't avoid a bump that's going to have a bigger bump, something like that you want to avoid, well, at least you can ride over it. You can easily tuck down, let the bike move underneath you, and then stand back up.
Well, that's wonderful. That's some great advice. It's definitely something you want to practice, though. Like, don't just...
Definitely.
Yeah. No. And again, you're not doing this on a major highway. This is back roads, fire roads, hard pack roads.
That's right.
Some great advice. Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. You can sit down now.
Still ahead, Veteran motorcycle journalist Colin Fraser has some sound advice on shopping for a motorcycle. And on shifting gears, track day organizer Sandy Noche says, when it comes to enjoying a track day, better bring the right stuff.
Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for Shifting Gears. This week, track day organizer Sandy Noche wants to make sure that you're dressed for success. So Sandy, we've been talking here on Shifting Gears about how to get set for your very first track day. Pro 6 Cycle, you've been doing this for 20 years and 35 track days a summer?
Yes.
That's incredible. That's a lot of events. We've been talking about how to prep your bike, and we've been focusing on getting the bike ready, making sure you have tires that are going to work for you throughout the day, but we never really talked about equipment. What should you be looking for in terms of riding wear?
Well, generally when people start out with us, they want to keep it inexpensive and start with a two-piece suit or something that they've used on the street, which is good and may not have armor in it or knee sliders. We ask that it is cowhide and in good condition, not frail or the stitching coming out of it.
Right.
And if it is two-piece, that it's zipped all the way around.
Okay.
So it's 360-degree zipper.
Yeah. So you need a good leather riding suit.
That's correct.
What about your boots, helmet, gloves?
Yeah, your boots need to be high enough to cover your ankles, so you can't see your socks or your skin over your leathers. Same with your gloves; they must cover your wrists. Gauntlet gloves are preferred, higher cuff. Good helmet in good condition. Doesn't have to be a 2015 Snell, but we want it to be in good shape. No gouges or previously enjoyed is not not recommended.
So you want to make sure you have good gear, your helmet's not all pooched and worn out. It seems to me like there's a total flow to the day in terms of your morning and getting teched and getting out on the track, and then there's a whole process to the day. What if you've never been on a track before? Am I going to be out there with, super bike caliber riders?
No, we do separate the groups. We have red, yellow, green, which basically are groups.
Yeah.
And we say they're fast, faster, and fastest because we're all fast.
Yeah.
This is not an ego sport. We try not to let it be.
Yeah.
So a new rider, first time out with us, like our Canadian champions we've had, have been at our track days over the years, like Jordan and Jody Christie.
Right.
We start them in green. They'll sometimes go out with one of our coaches and start real slow and work up to pace.
Right. That's great. So you don't have to jump into the deep end.
Oh, we wouldn't want anybody to do that.
Okay, awesome. Well, maybe it might be a good idea too, if you've never been to a track day, just come out and observe, right? And see what everybody else is up to and what they need to get on the track safely.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, Coming out for the day, see what you're going to get yourself into.
Yeah.
Get prepared. Maybe make some notes and come out and really maximize your day and have a good time with it.
I know for sure if you do come out and talk to people like you, you're going to get some great advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Sandy.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Alrighty then, now that we've got you all set to put your knee down, stay tuned because next, Inside Motorcycles senior editor Colin Fraser has some great advice on shopping for a used motorcycle. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you by Honda Canada, BMW Motorrad, and Olympia Motorsports. Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and we'll wrap up our show now by stepping back into the time machine. We travel back to the year 2006, the summer when we first sampled BMW's naked big bore inline 4, the mighty K1200R. But before we do that, let's pay a visit to the used section at our local motorcycle dealership. Here now is Colin Fraser.
So Colin, this week on the Used Bike Corner, we're talking about shopping for a used motorcycle. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this. Would you shop for a used bike like we are today in a motorcycle dealership, or would you like to do something shopping online or through a classified ad, maybe like Kijiji?
Well, the Kijiji route is the degree of difficulty route. It's certainly possible to get a really good deal. It's certainly possible to waste a gigantic amount of time, and it really helps to be knowledgeable on the product. So you've got a bit of a problem there if you're particularly new to the sport or haven't bought too many motorcycles. Probably the dealer would be a little more expensive, but then you're building a relationship, and they have a lot of obligations legally about how they treat you and how the motorcycle performs.
Right.
Also, if you trade that bike in, they'll be a lot more interested to see you than anyone on Kijiji.
Right. So this week we're shopping for a used motorcycle, and we're looking at a 2006 BMW K1200R. Do you remember that motorcycle? Big naked bike?
Right, so it's basically the stripped down version of the S. It has very little bodywork. It's still physically a large motorcycle. They dropped the gearing. This is a really powerful bike at the time. I think it was BMW's most powerful bike, before the hardcore sport bikes came into being with BM. So this is a really nice, flexible, powerful, not a small bike, not a beginner's bike, but certainly a sophisticated cruiser. Highway riding, yeah, but are you going to go on long trips on this thing? If you are, you're going to get pretty buggy, you're going to be hung out in the wind. But a really impressive bit of machinery and a pretty imposing motorcycle.
Right. And so if you're an intermediate rider or a senior rider with a lot of experience,
and reasonably long legs.
And long legs, you can pick one up right now for about $8,000 Canadian certified.
And that's a lot of motorcycle for $8,000.
It sure is. And here's what we thought about that motorcycle when we first road tested it back in 2006.
At first glance, I have to admit this new in-your-face, fuel-injected 1,157cc inline 4 from the folks at BMW took me totally by surprise. I mean, check out its blacked-out frame and engine, single-shock dual-lever front end, and general overall, ready-to-pounce, bare-knuckle styling. At the heart of this fighter is a 4-cylinder, fuel-injected high-compression power plant that BMW claims produces in the neighborhood of 163 horsepower, making it possibly the most powerful roadster in the world. Our test bike also came with BMW's latest semi-linked ABS system. So how did it all work? Well, recently we invited Ellen Foster, a naked bike enthusiast from Kingston, Ontario, to sample the R, and here's what she had to say after a day of rumbling out on the road.
It rocks. It really does. Lots of power, 163 horsepower, lots of torque. As we finished up to the day, you waved us on by, and I gave a little good flick of the wrist to see what she had kind of thing, and she just pulled away. Very smooth, stable. I love it. Claim weight, a little over 500 pounds. You'd never know it. I'm only 5'6" type thing, easily handling in that. The low center of gravity, you say it's long in that, but no problems turning it around on the U-turns. Very nimble as far as handling in that. 31-inch inseam. Apparently it comes with a 32-inch seat height and also a 31. It's got to be a 31 lower seat on this particular model that I'm test riding today. But I was flat-footed, knees slightly bent even. It's very comfortable, no hesitation in it. Just a joy to ride.
Anything let you down?
I was looking for something that was wrong with it in that. I was playing with it when we were following you, just back and forth, trying to get a feel how nimble it was. It turned on a dime, even like I said, despite the long wheelbase, did our U-turns, no problem in that. And just trying to throw the bike as if you were doing an emergency avoidance or anything, it responded so well, so light. Obviously lowering the center of gravity that they have done is astronomical.
Yeah, they really laid down the motor.
That becomes important for a woman rider. We don't, unfortunately, have the same strength as a guy, and that, not to say that we can't ride just as well or as fast, but with the low center of gravity, I never felt that this bike was too heavy whatsoever.
Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, but be sure to tune in next week as we'll be sampling Honda's all-new CBR 300R. So until then, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked. Bye for now.